About a half an hour later, Scooby and the gang had decided to go check it at the hotel, where the Hex girls stayed there at the park to keep rehearsing. "We're gonna put a spell on all of you." The girls finished throwing their puffs of smoke onto the ground. Thorn let out a labored breath. She was more than tired. "Let's try that again," she said to her bandmates. "Come on, Thorn, we've rehearsed that song like 4 times already," Luna complained. "Hey, practice makes perfect." Dusk saw how tired Thorn looked. "Okay, seriously, you look exhausted," she said. "I'm fine. Let's go again," Thorn insisted. "You don't look fine to me," Dusk added. "Yeah, girl, you look like you're about to collapse," Luna agreed. Thorn then noticed that the worried look on her friends' faces inside. "Alright, let's take a 10-minute break," she said. She walked over to a nearby cooler and took out a water bottle. She sat down on one of the chairs and felt very relaxed. When she sat down and took a cold drink of water, "God," she sighed as she held her head to her head as if she was checking for a fever. As she put her elbow on the arm of the chair and rested her head on her hand and rested and shut her eyes. These pills were giving her a sleep, but in that way, they made her want to sleep even more. "Hey, Thorn, have you seen my drumsticks?" Luna asked. Thorn looked over and opened her eyes and looked over the drum set. "Didn't you just have them? Checked over by the drums," she answered. Luna bent down near the bass drum and grabbed a hold of something. "Oh, there they are," she said. But as she pulled them back up, her hand was not the drumsticks, but a large glove with knives attached to the fingers. Thorn jumped awake as she dozed off for the second time, and she looked around. Only a couple of seconds seemed to have passed by. On Elm Street near the house number 1428, Mystery Inc. stood outside of the crime scene while the police still looked around the area. After checking in at the hotel, Fred and Velma decided to take the gang over to see what had really gone. "Does anyone have any idea what had been happening here?" Fred asked a rather young police officer. "No idea. This kind of thing has been happening all the time. I heard something like this has first started in 1984, the officer answered. "And they believe this guy Freddy Krueger has something to do with this?" Velma asked. I don't know what to believe," the officer says. "It sounds a little impossible." "Why?" Daphne asked. "Well, they said a long time ago Krueger was a creeper and a murderer, and when the kid's parents found out, they decided to get even, so they burned him alive." "Jinkies," Velma said. "Why, that's pretty brutal," Shaggy said. "Rare," Scooby agreed. "So what are you thinking what really happened?" Fred asked. "Well, right now we're going to find some kind of break-in, but we can't seem to find any signs of struggle or fingerprints, so," the cop said. As the officer walked away, the gang looked at each other. They had no idea what to make of this. "What could be going on here, Freddy?" Velma asked Fred. "I don't know. None of it makes any sense. Why would Carly keep complaining about those nightmares about Krueger?" Fred asked. "Why, maybe it's because she's living in a creepy house with a lot of bad stuff happened," Shaggy suggested. "What do you think, Velma?" Daphne asked. I don't know," Velma asked, puzzled. What was Velma supposed to think? A girl dies from some kind of nightmare? Velma had heard about these nightmares that cause heart attacks and people dying from that, but never actual infections right to the body. Could Carly actually have a dream of herself being killed? Did that even cause that to happen for real? That night back at the park on stage, the Hex Girls continued their rehearsal for the festival. "Alright girls, Trap of Love," Thorn said. Luna put her hands on the keyboard and began the song. Soon Dusk's drums joined in, and Thorn's guitar joined in the mix. While the girls were singing, a couple of workers were on the ground checking out the stage. "Are you sure you tightened the bolts on the stage right enough?" one of the workers said. "That one looks pretty loose." He just pointed on one of the lights just above where Thorn stood. "I'm sure, boss, it's safe," the other guy responded. On the stage, Thorn was so tired that she actually began to feel kind of sick. She was having hot and cold flashes, and she didn't want to sing anymore. But she knew what she had to do. Thorn continued to sing, but just as she shut her eyes for a second, she opened her eyes and fought across the stage. On the grass sat Freddy Krueger on a chair, watching her perform. He had the most evil smile, showing his blood-stained teeth as he clapped his gloved hand and his other burnt one. Little did Ford know that in reality, the light the stage worker had tightened, loosened, and loosened as even more as Trapped of Love reached its final verse. Just as the song ended, the stage light loosened last time before it completely came loose. Ford was still daydreaming, but hadn't noticed until one of the guys yelled, "Hey, watch out!" She quickly came back to reality and looked up as what was about to fall on her. She shrieked and instinctively fell backwards, hit the ground just as the light shattered on the stage floor. Dusk and Luna and a few other workers hurried over to see if Thorn was all right. "Thorn, are you okay?" Dusk asked. Yeah, I'm fine," Thorn answered, lifting again, sitting up. "Would you stop saying you're fine? Okay, you're not. That light almost took you out," Luna said. "Maybe we should call it a night," one of the workers said. "No, you guys. I'm okay, really," Thorn insisted. She looked at everyone who saw their faces that they gave her. "Don't look at me like that," she stood up. "Look, I'm just gonna go for a walk." "A walk? But it's 10 o'clock. Let's just go back to the hotel," Dusk suggested. "It's okay, I'll be fine. I'll be back before you know it," Thorn said as she walked off. "Man, what's her problem?" Luna complained. "I guess she's just under a lot of pressure," a worker said. "Yeah, but aren't we all?" Luna asked. "She's acting like a loose cannon, so she really shouldn't be alone right now." A few minutes later, Thorn walked on the side of the road and through a neighborhood she didn't know. She was already regretting her decision going on this walk, especially at this hour. The cool breeze was in the air. Felt kind of relaxing, though. What she really needed was some sleep, though. As she walked along the sidewalk, she could hear something that sounded like little girls singing. She looked over across the street and saw at least a group of little girls playing jump rope. 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. 3, 4, better lock your door. Thorn wondered why those girls were singing that. She was certain that she heard it before, but where? "Hello, Sally," a creepy voice beaconed from behind Thorn. She prayed that it wasn't who she thought, but then she turned around. It was. "Who are you?" she asked. "Don't you remember?" the ghoul asked. Thorn stared at him. She already knew who this guy is. She just didn't want to admit it. "Freddy?" she called. "Bingo. But what do you want from me?" "You're even more beautiful than the last time I saw you," Kruger said, ignoring Thorn's question. "You don't scare me," Thorn lied. "No?" Kruger asked. "I doubt that." He then got closer to her and sniffed her hair. She winced. It was horrifying. Then he held her face with his gloved hand and gave her a kiss on the forehead. "Time to play, bitch," he said, before shoving her to the ground. "You have until the count of 10. She then turned around and began to count, and Thorn took this opportunity to run away. She belted across the street as fast as she could. Wearing heels really made her eliminated speed, but then she looked back and saw Freddy Krueger running after her. She was screaming now. She looked back again, saw no one was there, and then she shrieked again and ran into someone. "Scott!" she yelled. She realized then who it was. "Hey, sorry, Thorn," he said. No problem," she responded. "Hey, listen. I heard what happened. Are you alright?" "I think so," Thorn hesitated. "I don't know. Maybe they're right. I'm just losing it." "Well, I wouldn't say you're losing it," Scott said. "So what are you doing out here?" Thorn asked, trying to fix her ruffled hair. "Well, I sort of follow you. You were spazzing out for a second." Thorn felt embarrassed as she really had fallen asleep while she was walking. This was getting way out of hand. "Sorry," she said meekly. "Hey, it's cool. I'm just wondering if you're alright." "Yeah, I'm good. I just needed some sleep, I guess." "Come on, I'll walk you back." They walked back along the sidewalk, heading towards the park. Just as when they got back, Scott decided he needed to speak. "Hey, listen, Thorn, I've been thinking. I was kind of wondering if you'd like to, go out with me sometime," he said shyly. Thorn was caught a bit off by the guard by this. The last thing that had been on her mind was dating. She sighed and she was used to guys asking her out. "Look, Scott, you're a nice guy and everything," she said. "But," Scott asked, "but I really don't have time for boys right now, with the band and stuff." "Oh, yeah." Scott felt a little silly now. He couldn't believe that he just asked her in the first place. "You know what? Just forget it that I said that," he said. "Oh, I'm sorry. Don't be. Totally not your fault. I guess I'll see you later then." With that, he left, leaving Thorn feeling kind of guilty for not taking Scott up on his offer. That night, 4 seasons, the gang had gotten a room and connected with the Hex Girls. In their room, they were all sound asleep. Shaggy and Scooby had snored simultaneously and slept peacefully with the rest of the gang. In the Hex Girls' room, however, while Dusk and Luna were asleep, getting plenty of rest, Thorn was having a terrible nightmare. Sally, Sally. She could hear in her dream. It was a voice of Freddy Krueger. Thorn couldn't take these dreams anymore. She woke up in cold sweat and screamed loud enough to wake up the dead. For everyone in the room jerked awake. Dusk turned on the light. What? What's going on? Luna asked. Thorn was literally shaking in fear. I'm sorry. It's just a bad dream, she said. Then there was a knock connecting to the room. Dusk got up and opened it. It was Fred, Shaggy, and the rest of them. What's going on, guys? We heard screaming, Fred said. They looked over on the bed and saw how scared Thorn looked. Velma walked over and placed her hands on Thorn's shoulders to comfort her. Thorn, what's wrong? She asked. Nothing. I'm fine. Thorn trembled. She had a nightmare, Luna said. You look pretty spooked for it to be just a regular nightmare, Daphne said. It was Freddy Krueger, Thorn admitted. Mystery Inc. gasped. Like that same guy that Carly girl was dreaming about? Shaggy asked. Rah! Scooby barked. Thorn nodded. I keep dreaming about him, and I don't know why, she said. Maybe it's because of what Scott said? Luna suggested. No, I've been having these nightmares for days, and I just can't stand them, so... Thorn took out her capsule of pills. I've been taking of these to stay awake. You've been taking deoxin? Velma asked in shock. What the heck is that? Shaggy asked. It's some sort of asthmatein. It keeps you awake for hours, but it's extremely addictive because if it's used improperly, Velma explained. How often have you been taking them? I don't know. As soon as one wears off, Thorn answered. You need to stop taking these pills, Thorn. They're doing more harm than good, Velma cautioned. No, I need them. Please don't make me sleep. Thorn pleaded as she started to cry. I can't have another nightmare. I just can't. Thorn, calm down. You'll be fine, Luna said. Just go to sleep now, and tomorrow you'll feel a little better. It's not sleeping that's causing these nightmares to happen. I think Luna's right. Thorn, you need some rest, Fred said. But what if I see him again? Thorn asked. You won't, I promise, Luna reassured her. Okay, I'll try, Thorn said. Good, get some rest and we'll have a performance tomorrow, Luna said, getting back to bed. Good night, girls, Fred said before the others went back to their own rooms. Dusk turned the lights back off, and before anyone knew it, she and Luna were back to sleep. But Thorn wasn't. She didn't get any more sleep last night. The next day at the carnival, the Hex Girls' performance was less than ideal. Thorn appeared tired the entire time, and very noticeable bags under her eyes as her singing was really off. When the Earth, Wind, Fire, and Air had finished, the crowd mostly clapped out of courtesy, since Thorn's voice was sounding really strained and has been for the past hour. We're going to take a little break. Don't go anywhere, Thorn then told the crowd. Behind the stage, she reached into the cooler and got out of water. She cleared her throat before taking a huge swig, and then her bandmates Dusk and Luna walked up to her with folded arms. What was that? Luna asked. What? Thorn asked, pretending not to know. You totally blew it on that last one. That song say we don't care if we look bad, but you're sounding bad, Luna said. Sorry, my voice just is a little scratchy, Thorn said, taking another drink. Probably from tired. Girl, don't tell me you were up all night, Luna said. Thorn didn't answer. She just started drinking more water. No. Oh no, you weren't you? Dusk asked. It's okay, it's not a big deal, Thorn said, walking over to a chair to sit down. Yeah, it's a big deal, sister, Luna said as Thorn sat. You said you wanted everything for this festival to be perfect, but when it's time to perform, you're the only one who's lagging behind. You need to get it together, Thorn, seriously, Dusk said. Thorn quickly stood. Would you guys get off my back already? I get it, my singing was off, but I'll do better, okay? She said before stomping off. Her bandmates then sighed as they watched her go. While Scooby and Shaggy were off somewhere, eating cotton candy and hot dogs, obviously still trained for the competition that was 2 days away, Fred, Velma, Daphne rode the Ferris wheel, and they watched the performance stage get smaller and smaller as the wheel ascended them up into the air. Guys, I'm starting to get really worried about Fawn, Daphne said. Did you hear how her voice sounded on that last song? Yeah, I don't think she's doing too well either, Fred said. Well, I saw that the sandbags under her eyes this morning. She must have not slept that night, Velma said. Can you really blame her? Her nightmares sound pretty spooky, Daphne said. She's gonna have to sleep sooner or later, or she's gonna start having micro naps, Velma said. That is, if she hasn't had them already. Micro naps? What are they? Daphne asked. It's your dispersion of your body of sleep of certain amounts of time, and your brain starts to have dreams while you're awake. If it's sustained, it could lead you to a coma, Velma explained. Do you think she already been afraid of that Freddy guy so much that she risked that? Daphne asked. After the way I saw Fawn last night, I'm gonna have to say yes, Velma said. Down to the ground, Scooby and Shaggy were walking around with cotton candy all over their lips. Like, we're gonna do so dominate that contest, Scoob, Shaggy said. Rah! Dominate! Scooby agreed before burping loudly. Hey, Scoob, Raggy? Don't you think it's a little weird that Carly girl had a dream about Kruger Creep before she died, and now Fawn keeps dreaming about him too? Rah! Like, what if Kruger came back from the dead and somehow had the ability to invade people's dreams and kill them from inside? Shaggy said. They stopped walking and looked at each other. Then they busted up laughing. What ridiculous thing to say. Scooby-Doo almost fell over as he was laughing so hard. Rah, yeah, like that would ever happen, Shaggy laughed. That night back at the hotel in the Hex Girls' room, Scott was in them with them while Fawn was busy with a bowl, preparing something. You girls were awesome today, Scott said. Screw off, Scott. We sucked, and you know it, Luna said, sitting on a chair. We'll do better tomorrow, Dusk said. Yeah, if Fawn ever finally goes to sleep, Luna said. Scott saw how stressed Fawn looked and walked over to her. Hey, are you not sleeping? What's the problem? He asked. Yeah, I'm not sleeping, Fawn responded when she walked past him. Why not? Scott asked. She thinks that she's going to have more nightmares about Freddy Krueger, Luna said. What is that all? Scott asked. Fawn, come on. The Krueger was like a lightweight, and he was just some sort of twisted person, and you don't need to be afraid of him. Fawn didn't take that seriously at all. As long as she dreamed about him, she would be afraid. Hey, he didn't look so tough anyway. I've been seeing pictures of the guy. I should probably take him easy, Scott gloated. Yeah, okay, whatever, Fawn said. Hey, I know what you could do. Just imagine me in your dream of me protecting you from him, Scott said. Alright, Scott, don't you think it's time you left now? Luna asked. Well, alright, I guess I'll see you in the morning. Hey, Fawn, sweet dreams, Scott laughed before leaving. Luna shut the door behind him. God, he's so annoying, she muttered. With the bowl in hand, Fawn put the peppermint and cloves and the herbal remedy in. She breathed in hard and her throat almost felt a lot better. That can only help you for so long, girl. What you really need is some rest, Dusk said. I told you I can't, Fawn pressed. Fawn, this is crazy, don't you get it? It's a sleep desperation that's making you act this way, Luna complained. Who needs sleep? Fawn asked, taking out her capsule of deoxin. When I have these. With that, she popped a pill in her mouth and took a sip of water to wash it down. Dusk and Luna shook their heads. Nothing could possibly come of all this. A half an hour later, while everyone was asleep in their room, Scott tossed and turned in his bed. He just couldn't get comfortable. He got out and stretched and walked towards the bathroom when he went inside and closed the door. When he flicked on the light, however, he was inside a large boiler room, and he looked behind himself to see, but the door was gone. There was nothing more but boilers and decks. What the hell? Scott asked himself. Hell is exactly where you are, Scott heard a scary voice say. He looked around and saw a hideous Freddy Krueger walking towards him. A wave of terror broke over Scott when he sees Freddy scrape the blades on one of his knifed fingers across the rusty railing. Scott, 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 what would we do without you, with you? Freddy taunted. This was a dream. This was a dream. Wake up. Scott squinted his eyes and lightly clapped his cheeks. Before he knew it, Freddy was up close to his face. No, it's not a dream, Scott, Freddy said, holding his gloved hand towards Scott's face. It's real. Scott tried to shove Freddy, but he only moved him back a couple of inches. Ooh, strong guy. Come on, Scott. You said you could take me. What about that test of that fury? Freddy asked. Scott punched Freddy a few times in the face, then kicked him in the nuts. Freddy groaned in pain as Scott kept hitting him. After a moment, Scott started panting and Freddy kept groaning his pain on his knees. How did you felt that, bro, huh? Scott asked. Freddy then looked up and smiled, but Scott couldn't believe it. Freddy was feeling the pain, and as he got to his feet, Krueger started laughing. Now it's my turn, he said before punching Scott hard in the face. He woke up, Scott looked around and recognized that he was still in his hotel room. Oh geez, he said, putting his hand to his head. Suddenly there was a knock on the door. Scott jumped at the sound of it, and soon he got to it. He got out of bed, walked towards the door. He looked over through the peephole to see Thorn standing there. He unlocked the door and opened it. Thorn, is something wrong? He asked. I had another nightmare, Thorn answered. Come on in. He stood inside and Thorn walked in. This was so weird. I was having nightmares too, Scott said before he shut the door. Was it about Krueger? Thorn asked. Yeah. Thorn looked horrified now. Come on, let's sit on the bed, Scott said. They sat down and Thorn sighed. I'm really scared, Scott, she said. I know, Scott said. Thorn rubbed her eyes in exhaustion. I just want to go to sleep, but I can't. He'll kill me if I do, she cried. It's okay, come here, Scott said, pulling Thorn to his arms. Scott, I'm so scared, she began to cry. I know, it's okay. The moment was kind of awkward, but it felt kind of good that Thorn let Scott comfort her. As the hug ended, their faces got closer together. Scott hesitated, but Thorn put her hands on his face and kissed him softly on the lips. As the kissing became more furious, this is when the big things went on. They started to try to do well. Thorn continued kissing him. Needless to say, Scott was enjoying this. He had been crushing on Thorn ever since the Hex Girls had hired him 6 months ago, and she always seemed to reject his advances. Through he wondered if Krueger was the reason she was coming to him now. Whatever it is, he was thankful for it. Scott opened his eyes and leaned back for a total shock when he saw Freddy Krueger's face looking down at him. Freddy laughed loudly and evilly, and Scott screamed, Sweet dreams, honey! Freddy laughed. He lifted his gloved hand and stabbed Scott right through his body.